Hello kind people of YouTube and welcome back to another video. After I did an out of the ordinary video earlier, I did a video about my top 10 cryptocurrency picks to buy right now. We are now back to just a market and news update, and as you can see we actually have a lot of stuff to get through today, so I'm gonna try to hurry it up a bit. First up, a look at the markets as always. Very little movement again, but we see the markets ever so slightly rise. From a market cap of 208 billion and a half roughly yesterday, we are now up at 209.35 billion. That is about 1/4% up, so not all that impressive, but it is a movement up when we've pretty much only seen movements down for a while now. Bitcoin dominance 53.6%, that is 0.1% down from yesterday, not much movement there, and the 24-hour volume has gone up a tiny bit, but is still under 10 billion. Aside from that, nothing all that interesting going on here, most coins moving under 1% up or down, and one might finally say now that Tether has pretty much restored its parity with the US dollar. At 99.7 cents, it is now really close. But like I said in yesterday's video, or I think it was yesterday's video, I expect the Tether price to crash once more once it hits exactly $1. Because a lot of people have moved their Tether to exchanges in order to sell them off, and they are likely waiting for the price to hit exactly $1 again, so they're not selling them off at a loss. Anyway, that's it for the markets, not much going on here, so let's get into some news, shall we? As always, all these articles will be linked in the description if you want to read them fully yourself. I might not read out the full article for all of these because we just have so many today. In the description also are ways to support the channel, my social media links, all the good stuff, so do check it out. Most central banks back digital currency if DLT improved, IBM survey. Very interesting news in regards to how central banks might be dealing with cryptocurrencies in the future. A new IBM research report finds most polled central banks believe they should issue a wholesale central bank digital currency, although they remain uncertain if blockchain can provide sufficient cost and efficiency benefits. The report, released on Friday and conducted by IBM and OMFIF, an independent central bank think tank, examines opinions among 21 central banks between July and September on the topics of CBDCs and distributed ledger technology. Out of the 21 respondents, 38% are already testing a whole CBDC for interbank transactions, the research finds. Although a majority of the respondents are currently not active in the field, the report said most survey banks believe a wholesale CBDC could be issued by the central banks. The report adds that by creating a digital currency equal in value to the standard unit of a fiat currency, a CBDC could help remove credit risk and ensure stability of the token's value. That said, the respondents also shared concerns whether distributed ledger technology can live up to its promise in the field, with blockchain often being touted as a way to increase efficiency in cross-border transactions as well as to reduce costs. 61% of the central banks said a blockchain may not be necessary as they observed few efficiency gains during trials, given the technology is still in early stages of development, the report states. Meanwhile, 76% of the respondents state that they remain uncertain if DLT will be able to deliver on its promise, especially in areas such as regulation, the report said. The report lists all the existing cases where central banks are testing various projects that use DLT in cross-border transactions, such as Project Jasper from the Bank of Canada and Bank of Thailand's Project Coca. It further stated that none of the central bank DLT case studies examined included the possibility of radically overhauling their payment systems in the near future. Most are satisfied with existing real-time gross settlement platforms, adding, central banks concluded that blockchain systems must improve before they can overcome issues of scalability and speed. So we see here, these numbers don't seem all that high, with only 30-something% already running trials and with 70% saying they are doubtful if DLT can live up to its promise. But the big takeaway here for me is that 5 years ago, most of these banks wouldn't have even considered blockchain distributed ledger technology, creating their own central bank-backed digital currency. So this should be read as comparative to a couple years ago, when cryptocurrency wasn't even on anyone's radar. Compared to that, we have certainly seen an improvement here. And I think we will continue seeing this. We will see more and more openness to the idea of cryptocurrency in general, but also central bank-backed cryptocurrencies in particular in the coming years. Continuing on, some relatively bad news out of Coinbase, but let's put them into perspective. Coinbase downsizes more than a dozen people report. According to Yahoo Finance, Coinbase has eliminated more than 15 people from its customer support, compliance, and fraud departments. All three of these departments would seem to be of the utmost importance to the company, often simultaneously lauded and maligned for its commitment to regulatory compliance. Daniel Roberts, author of the Yahoo report, acquired confirmation that there had been firings but could not get an exact count from Coinbase. The number comes from an anonymous source, so could be more or less, but one thing is for certain, Coinbase definitely downsized more than a handful of people. Coinbase made no mention of the downsizing on its blog. Well, why would they? That's not the kind of thing you write about. Hey, we fired some people. And according to Robert's source, higher-ups at the firm are handling communications poorly. From our perspective, this news is somewhat odd, given that the company has recently appeared in good health and just this past week expanded its offerings for its institutional clients. Of course, financial health is not the only reason for positions to be eliminated. Which I would also get behind here, but a company downsizing certain aspects of itself, even when it's doing well, is not at all odd. A lack of money coming in, inefficiencies are not the only reasons to downsize. There are a lot of potential reasons, and they're gonna mention some right here in a moment that actually make perfect sense. The report notes that most of the employees were remote workers. As it turns out, Coinbase would prefer to bring customer service and the other departments as a whole closer to home. Coinbase told Yahoo, "We've learned that certain teams who are co-located are more efficient, effective, and happier in their roles." So moving forward, some teams, including support, fraud, and compliance, will only hire employees into Coinbase offices. Cryptocurrencies have been on a... well, this is just about the markets in general, we don't need to read the rest of this. Takeaway point from here is something between 10 and 20 people have been let go by Coinbase in a variety of departments. We don't know the exact number, but it seems to be primarily or maybe even only remote workers. And a lot of people are very worried about what this might mean for Coinbase, but the way I see it, Coinbase is still a relatively new company, and early on they might have hired a lot of remote workers, not realizing the disadvantages that might come with that. Remote workers, of course, are not physically located in your office. You might have to deal with other time zones, with other countries' laws in some cases even. You might have to deal with the constant Skype conferences and the constant emailing back and forth. You can't just walk over and have a discussion. There's just a lot of small things that get in the way. And of course, people who work from home, I believe there have been some studies that have shown that they tend to be less efficient, tend to be using more time for the same work. I mean, some of that makes sense. You're more likely to be distracted from your job if you're working from home. So I think this is pretty rational. They are hiring a bunch of people and opening new offices and everything. So this is a drop in the bucket. In the time that they let go a bunch of people, they hired so many more. I don't think this is something to be worried about. And I have been very critical about some things Coinbase has done in the past here. So I don't think I'm shilling for Coinbase when I say that this doesn't worry me. This just looks like them running their company the way a well-working company is pretty much meant to be run. If you have a bunch of workers that are inefficient because they're located out of your offices themselves, and if you can make your process, your company more efficient by getting rid of them and hiring local people instead, even if that might leave some positions empty for a while, that seems pretty rational to me. That just seems like good business to me. Anyway, continuing on. Some EOS news, and this is pretty exciting actually, but we might only find out if we actually read it. New protocol lets EOS dApps teleport tokens from Ethereum. Arguably the most important contribution of Ethereum is the real-world implementation and accessibility of smart contracts. From smart contracts follow decentralized applications or dApps, which enable common users to interact with financial and other purposes of the blockchain without necessarily needing to be cryptocurrency savvy. So many smart contracts and dApps have been launched on the Ethereum network that it has seen severe congestion at times, which has led to the development and implementation of third-party platforms which are still connected to the Ethereum network but enable more efficient operation through different methods of processing finalized transactions on Ethereum. Several have been launched over the past couple of years, including Raiden, developed by the Ethereum co-founder. However, other projects like EOS have abandoned Ethereum altogether in pursuit of alternative scaling technologies. Smart contracts and dApps already operating on the Ethereum network may recognize the value in moving to a more scalable option such as EOS, but until now there would have been a great deal of work involved in porting such applications to the EOS architecture. Shios, that's a hilarious name, a firm which helps companies launch EOS tokens and provides important infrastructure for their network, has recently created a new protocol called EOS21, which enables the smooth transaction of ERC20 tokens to the EOS ecosystem. We think developers should have that technical and creative freedom, so we designed the protocol to make it possible, the firm says of the development. They also wrote, "Recently, the importance of one specific development had become clear to us, and that is inter-blockchain communication and interoperability. How empowering would it be for developers to have freedom to move their tokens to any chain they wanted to any chain they felt best addresses the needs of their particular project. It's widely known that each blockchain offers certain qualities that make it more appealing depending on the needs of the dApp developers." Everyday users of Ethereum dApps may not immediately see any change, but ultimately this project could lead to an exodus from Ethereum mainnet to the in some ways more attractive EOS environment. EOS is capable of settling transactions faster and handling more users. There are dedicated servers operated by numerous firms including Shios. The benefits to common users may not be seen for a while, but for developers and firms looking to improve their Ethereum dApp products, the EOS21 protocol could certainly be a game changer. Potential applications of the protocol are myriad, including two-way pegging. This would mean that EOS tokens could be paired with traditional Ethereum tokens for some applications, a powerful possible implementation. The firm even foresees Ether transactions being authenticated via EOS or vice versa. Furthermore, a pro-open source firm to the core, Shios openly encourages similar projects or even other blockchains like Ripple and Stellar to copy their idea and build on it. So this, in my view, is very, very exciting because it gets us one step closer to that idea of cryptocurrency as an open space where you have freedoms, where everything can interoperate. And I'm always very interested in projects that that link two blockchains together like this. Now, one way you can deal with this is you can essentially copy over, if I understood it correctly, you can essentially copy over a dApp that was previously running on Ethereum and now run it on EOS. In which case you would benefit from better scaling options, from cheaper transactions and from faster transactions. But you could also design completely new kinds of projects that work on both blockchains together, that use the benefits of each blockchain while getting to stay clear of the downsides of them. That could be insanely powerful, and I'm very excited to see what kind of apps will be using this in the future. I don't think we'll see anything roll out within the next couple of months, but in a year or two we might see a lot of movement here. So that is very exciting, and I always like to talk about EOS. Continuing on, we have an opinion piece here about why the SEC might rule favorably on XRP. Now, we have seen a lot of opinion pieces like this in the past couple of months. A lot of people think that, especially with the statements that Ripple has publicly made, that they pretty much already know how the SEC is going to rule, and that they're going to rule that XRP is a currency. So let's read this from Ethereum World News. Recently, Ripple announced the commercial availability of XRapid. It is an API that automates the whole process of moving funds instantaneously from one country to another by leveraging on XRP, an on-demand liquidity asset. Initially, and as reported by Ethereum World News, 3 companies were the first to adopt, but the entry of Via Americas is a definite game changer. In a recent publication, Ripple said global payment providers such as Via Americas, Qualix, IDT, MercuryFX and others are using XRapid to significantly lower their liquidity costs and send real-time payments and industry first. Why? Well, the chairman of Via Americas, Paul S. Dwyer, is also the chairman of the US Money Service Business Association, and the association works directly with US regulators including the US Security and Exchange Commission, or SEC. A level deeper and we can digest what this means. First, the MSBA mission statement is clear. Their main objective is to allow innovation and development of payment industry while promoting the education and communication with federal and state regulators. Now keep in mind here, the official mission statement for groups like this don't always necessarily match up with what they actually do. So take this with a grain of salt. But the main takeaway so far is that the CEO, well, no, the chairman, not the CEO, of one of the banks that Ripple is trialing XRapid with is also the chairman of an association that works closely with the SEC. Here we have a tweet. There's an interesting fact about the Americas using XRapid. The CEO of the company, well, yeah, just saying that same thing the article already said. That extract is of prime importance for Ripple, as the majority owner of the coin and a company whose technology promotes the use of XRP for their cross-border payment drive. In an announcement, Paul Dwyer said, "The MSBA helps lead the efforts to ensure that consumers get fair, safe and compliant service, and that the industry constantly seeks to team with regulators, banks, law enforcement and consumer advocates to ensure that threats to the efficiency, integrity and reputation of the industry, from unlicensed operators to unjustified adverse direct and indirect regulation, receive the full attention they deserve." With Paul at the helm of a corporation with presence in more than 34 countries spread around the continent, and spread around 3 continents, and with more than 76,000 cash-out points, the adoption of XRapid and XRP speaks tones about the future of XRP. Of course, a massive corporation as the Americas would not have exposed themselves and allow use of XRP if it wasn't aware of the legal and regulatory implications of the use of a digital asset which the SEC hasn't declared its stand on. This is a very important point that I think not enough people are talking about. We see these major banks and these major organizations that are closely tied to regulators, that are in direct conversation with regulators, agreeing to use Ripple's technologies and the XRP token. And these major banks wouldn't be doing that if they weren't absolutely secure in their belief that there weren't any major regulatory issues coming up. And I think this should get us all very hopeful about the near future of XRP. I've said before, even if the SEC declares XRP a commodity, that is more like throwing a couple stones into our path. That doesn't destroy the path, it just makes it a bit harder. But having a statement from the SEC that XRP is a currency, or having no statement from the SEC at all, that would also work, is obviously preferable. And it seems that a lot of people, including the CEO of the Americas, who is so closely tied to regulation, seems pretty certain that that is what is going to happen. The Americas must have done their due diligence, concluding that indeed XRP is a utility. As a utility, it doesn't meet all the conditions set by Howey test. Instead, it perfectly affirms previous comments made by Michael Didier. And here's someone saying XRP is not a security, it's a currency, Ripple could go away and XRP would still exist. This was at the Swell event, I believe. Michael is a former employee of the SEC that had previously stated that XRP is not a security, but rather it was a currency. In an interview, he justified his assessment saying, "I don't think XRP is a security, I think XRP is a currency." The reason why is the Howey test. It's a 4-factor test, investment of money in a common enterprise with the expectation of profits based on the efforts of others. The big issue here is that the discussion about whether something is a security or a currency, the definitions are vague enough, and are vague enough essentially that this boils down ultimately to opinion to some degree. So you could conceivably make the argument that some tokens are either, and it ultimately comes down on what you personally believe they are, because it's just relatively vague definitions, and it can be spun. It can be spun. So ultimately, there is no saying yes, no. It's just how does this individual government body decide? So while I also, in my assessment, based on everything I know, it also looks like XRP would not be a security and should be classified a currency, I can conceivably see how regulators might disagree, how some people might lay out the argument in another way. Anyway, let's get to the rest of this article. Therefore, going by these developments, chances are XRP is most likely a utility. So far, Ripple has incorporated 3 exchanges, Bitso, CoinsPH and Bittrex for cross-border payment through XRapid. Though there are no comments from US regulators, curious investors can connect the dots. They would later realize that Ripple assertions may after all be true, and SEC may end up delivering a favorable ruling. Aside from Corey Johnson, the chief marketing strategist at Ripple, comments about their regular communications with the White House, Sagar Sarbai, head of government and regulatory relations, APAC and Middle East, revealed more. Sagar is important in this wheel. We can directly link him with the recent explosion of price when he said Ripple would launch XRapid in months. Remember, I talked about this extensively on the channel. True to his word, XRP was commercially available during the Swell conference. Saka further said the company has been engaging with the SEC to help them better understand XRP and that owners of XRP cannot receive any stake from Ripple, the company. So this, of course, would be a core argument as to why it is not a commodity. Because a commodity, you would expect to get a share of Ripple's profits. You would expect to get a share of profits created by somebody else in a company you have a stake in. XRP does not give you a stake in Ripple, the company. But yeah, take away from this, I've talked about this a few times already. This is essentially just putting it all into one article once again and adding the connection of Paul Dwyer here. I personally think that XRP should be considered a currency, and I think right now the signs are pointing in that direction that the SEC will either come down on the same side or won't even make a statement at all. You have to keep in mind, like, why would the SEC have to deliver statements like that about every single cryptocurrency? There are way too many. They might just decide that they are going to make generalized statements about cryptocurrencies and about Bitcoin. And then rule on individual ETFs and stuff like that instead, and keep the and then the assumption would be that other cryptocurrencies would be considered the same as Bitcoin. Continuing on, we have so much to go through today, but I promise it's not that much more. It just looks more than it actually is. Zcash is having a hard fork. Now, I'm not going to read out this whole article, I just want to let you guys know that this is happening. Zcash, not a currency I usually talk about here, so I felt the need to just include this here. Their transactions are going to be lighter. Zcash, of course, privacy coin, and improving their technology a bit. The Zcash blockchain is set to hard fork on December 29th, upgrading the network to make shielded transactions less computationally heavy, thereby making its currency easier to use. The Zcash blockchain and coin went live in October 2016 with a focus on privacy by using zero-knowledge proofs. Zcash was the first big application of ZK snarks, a variation of zero-knowledge proofs that allow them to be used in blockchains and reduce their size and the computational strain on the network. So takeaway here, just the transactions on Zcash are gonna be faster, cheaper, and all around better with this hard fork that is happening tomorrow. And now, this. I don't actually want to talk about the content of this article. I want to do something else here. If you guys actually watch most of my videos or all my videos, you'll know yesterday I made a video about some major crypto news websites being exposed for some unethical journalistic practices. And if I remember correctly, AMB Crypto was one of them. And then today I come across this article on AMB Crypto, and it just reeks. It reeks of issues. There are just so many issues with this article. And okay, I'm just going to outline what it is. And okay, this is an article reporting on statements by Bo Polney. They actually misspelled his name in the title and throughout the entire article. Something that happens on AMB Crypto a lot. I'm not sure if they have an editor. They definitely need one. But okay, they're reporting essentially on him saying that Bitcoin will gain mass adoption in November because the global equity market is in a crash right now, and that will lead to the crypto markets going up. That is not all that out of the ordinary. A lot of analysts and a lot of just general crypto people are saying this. Some using mathematical models, some not. He's using some historical trends to say that. Now, I don't necessarily have that much an issue with the content of the statements here. I don't personally think you can clearly say this is going to happen. The cryptocurrency markets are not quite tested for that. We haven't seen the correlation one would expect between the traditional markets crashing and crypto markets moving so far. So I think any claim that you definitely know this is going to happen is pretty much pulled out of one's ass, if you excuse my language for a moment. But the real issue here is, the first red mark against this article was I read it, and I noticed never once do they mention where he said this, what the source for this is. Number one rule of journalism, when you're reporting on something, when you're responding on someone's statements, you mention the source. Like, did he say this at an event? Did he say this in an interview with you? Did he say this in an interview with another outlet? You mention the source, you tell us where you got this information. Nothing like that in his whole article. So I went searching around for a bit. And I found that no other major crypto website was reporting on this. So clearly it didn't happen at some major event, and it wasn't an interview with a major crypto website either. So where's this information even from? And why are they reporting on it? Is it even newsworthy? And then I did some scooping around, and I found out who Bo Polney is. I was previously not aware of him. And I find first his Twitter page. And I see, okay, 688 Twitter followers. So far this looks like a lot of Twitter profiles about cryptocurrency. And he's also promoting his YouTube channel here and his website. But then you actually look at everything, you see every other word in caps, you see a lot of apocalyptical talk here, you see a lot of hype, you see a lot of that stuff that makes you question the validity of anyone and how seriously they should be taken. And then the additional information here is that he's an analyst at Global Forecast 2020. That is the only information they actually give about who Bo Polney, or rather Bo Polney, Polin is the incorrect name that they use here, who that actually is. Global Forecast 2020, this. Take a look at this website. This is not legitimate. Just read the beginning of the text here. God's seasons of change are upon the world now. The first of the 4 seasons begin in summer with earthquakes, eruptions, political troubles, and turmoil. Before the end of doors close to our soon-to-be old world, as earth-changing rains, earthquakes, tsunamis, and floods begin, just as in the days of Noah. A great evil, the era of time, the golden age, an era of prosperity and abundance. What the hell is this? What the hell is... This is not a legitimate analyst. And then you look a bit further and you find here, this entire website exists. This entire website exists for him to be selling you an incredibly expensive product with Bible quotes all over the page. We see a Bible quote here. Bible quote. We see another one in the text here. He misspelled Proverbs because that's how professional he is. But here, you can get a 14-day trial for only $149. This is I don't want to call him a scam artist because I can't prove that any of these things are scams. But this is not what I would consider a legitimate source or somebody whose statements are newsworthy. This is one of many people on the internet who are trying to sell people expensive financial advice with no particular qualifications, with and then looking further into it, first of all, they don't have a privacy policy here. It's just empty, They have all the testimonials from people who I'm absolutely sure are definitely real, definitely not made up. But and then you see down here, just copyright Gold 2020 Forecast LLC, and then you try to do some more research. Who is this person? Who is this company? And then on the contact page, you just get a PO box and a form to send messages. There is no sign of any other person except for him even being involved with this company. This appears to be his vanity company that he set up to sell his expensive financial advice products on the internet. And this website, there's nothing about this as professional. He seems to be basing his predictions just as much, if not more, on the Bible and on end-of-world talk that people have been predicting for 2,000 years. People have been predicting this kind of stuff to happen in the next year for 2,000 years. It's never happened. People have been predicting this for 2,000 years. But all of this seems to just be based on the Bible, not on legitimate financial analysis. This appears to be a company that is completely set up just by himself. Even here, this quote up here is just a quote from himself. A quote from himself. Then expensive $240 for 6 months. Wow. So it's just selling us these expensive products on a completely unprofessional end of days, full of this text is also, nobody who speaks English as a first language should be writing like this. No one who has an editor should be writing like this. Just conspiracy theories completely based on biblical prophecy. Just, this is not professional, and anyone who gives someone like this a platform, I'm going to be worried. And then looking back at the article here again, they don't provide any of the necessary context here. They say he's an analyst at Global Forecast 2020. Now, that makes it sound like he's an analyst working for some established financial company that the reader simply doesn't know. There are a lot of legitimate think tanks and fintech companies and financial companies and banks that one simply doesn't know because there's simply so many of them and you're not directly involved with it. But what they fail to mention here is that that seems to be a company he has set up himself to sell $260 for half-year memberships to financial advice online. This does not seem to be any kind of established company. This is just him. So you have here AMB Crypto uncritically, completely uncritically reporting on what someone who is absolutely not professional and should probably not even be given a platform is predicting. And you have them not provide the necessary context, not link to the source. And it doesn't appear that anyone else was writing about this. So they dug this up themselves. And there's only two things that, there are two possibilities here, and neither of them are very good reflections of AMB Crypto. One of them is, and this is not the only one, so don't get mad for me just saying this, but AMB Crypto, we have found out that they're willing to publish, to essentially publish ads, paid content, without declaring that they're publishing paid content. And I think this very much, I told you guys I would point out the next time I see it. This very much looks like that, because this is just a fluff piece about how great Bo Polin, when it should be Polny, and his predictions are, with no context, no critical analysis, no nothing. Just reporting on things he said with no, that is not journalistic. This is not journalistic. So one possibility, this might be paid content. This might be Bo Polny paying AMB Crypto to write a positive article about him, knowing that people will search for his name, will search for his company, and might buy his financial advice products as a result. That is one of the two possibilities. The other, which I think is equally likely and almost equally bad, almost, not quite as bad, because it doesn't break one of the first rules of journalism, but also very much unethical, because nobody else is reporting on this, so this isn't something newsworthy. This isn't actually in the news, it's just on AMB Crypto. That is always very telling. This wasn't said at some conference, this wasn't said at some event. He's not a noteworthy figure. So why report on this? The other thing I can think of is that AMB Crypto is desperately searching for statements from people that they can spin into nice clickbaity headlines like this one. Bitcoin will gain mass adoption after global equity market meltdown in November 2018. That is an incredibly clickbaity headline. I'm sure thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people have clicked on this. They have made some nice money from this article. So my other potential reading here is that there was no shady business involved. This is not Bo Polny paying them off, but this is them just searching desperately for something they can spin into a clickbait headline. But then you have to wonder, where's the integrity and the journalistic responsibility here on reporting things simply because they're clickbaity? Not because anyone noteworthy said this, not because this is something that is actually in the active discussion, and reporting just uncritically on someone who one quick look at his Twitter feed and at his website shows you that he should not be taken seriously. This reflects terribly on the cryptocurrency community as a whole and on AMB Crypto in particular, and I am extremely, extremely disappointed with this. Anyway, that was a 15-minute rant about this, but I just needed to get that off my chest because it's incredible what kind of nonsense crypto journalism gets away with. And I think we need to start calling this out whenever we see it, even if it makes us unpopular. I'm sure there are some people who are aware of this guy and who are supportive of him. I'm sure there are some people who are big fans of AMB Crypto. I'm sure there are some people who don't understand why I see an issue with this. So this will probably make me unpopular as well, but I have to do the right thing here and call this out. We need journalistic integrity and transparency and responsibility. And this is AMB Crypto just 1 or 2 days after being exposed for allowing people to publish paid content undeclared, undisclosed on their website. Publishing another thing like this is terrible. This is completely unacceptable. And with that, I'm gonna end this video. I hope I didn't scare you all away. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want these daily ranty news updates. If you enjoy my content, please consider supporting me in some way. you could get a monthly Patreon donation where you give $1 or $3 a month, and that gets some perks, like me calling you out in a giving you a shout out in a video and including your name in my descriptions, or one-off donation addresses for cryptocurrencies and a bunch of stuff in the description. All the links to these articles also in the description, as well as my social media links. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be with you again tomorrow.